KL Publications presents I See You, Chapter 1, The Psychology of a Lie. Lawrence and Lakesha Taylor had been married for 20 years, and to most people, they seemed like the perfect couple. They had built a life together, raised 3 amazing boys, and created a stable, loving home. But beneath the surface, the cracks in their relationship were beginning to show. Though their love for each other was undeniable, they had developed a habit of omitting certain truths to avoid conflict. It started with small things, Lawrence not telling Lakesha about a missed payment, or Lakesha pretending she was fine with Lawrence's late work nights. These omissions seemed harmless, but over time they grew into something deeper. Lawrence and Lakesha found themselves living in a world where small lies became a shield, protecting them from the reality of their emotions. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, watching the sunset through the window, Lakesha sighed. "Do you ever feel like we're just going through the motions?" she asked softly. Lawrence glanced at her, surprised by the question, but unsure of how to respond. Instead of answering, he gave her a tight smile, not wanting to stir any tension. Inside, he wondered the same thing, but didn't want to risk an argument. In that moment, they both silently agreed to keep their unspoken doubts hidden. After all, wasn't it easier to preserve the peace than face the discomfort of an open conversation? But what they didn't realize was that by avoiding the truth, they were slowly distancing themselves from the authenticity that had once made their bond so strong. Chapter 2, Lies in Relationships. The 3 boys, Amari, Manny, and Lawrence, were thriving in their own right. Amari, the eldest, had made a name for himself as a young painter, known for his raw and expressive style. Manny, just a year younger, followed a similar path, with his work praised for its ability to convey deep emotional truth. Art was a language in their household, and both boys had learned early on that art should never lie. They painted from the heart, from their experiences, and from the truths they saw in their world. One day, Amari confronted his parents during dinner. "Mom, Dad, why don't you ever fight?" he asked bluntly. "I mean, I know you love each other, but sometimes it feels like you guys hold back." Lakesha exchanged a glance with Lawrence. The question struck a chord. "We just try to keep the peace, Mari," Lakesha said gently. "Not everything needs to be a fight." But Manny added, "How could you be close if you're not being real with each other? When you hide things to avoid conflict, you're not really solving anything." Lawrence shifted in his seat, uncomfortable with the directness of their boys. "It's not that simple," he muttered. "It's exactly that simple," Amari shot back. "In art, we learned that if you're not being honest with yourself, it shows. People can tell when something's fake. It's the same in relationships, right?" That conversation left Lawrence and Lakesha both feeling unsettled. They had taught their boys to value truth, and their boys had excelled because of it. Yet here they were avoiding their own truths in the name of peace. For the first time, they began to wonder if their omissions were doing more harm than good. Chapter 3, Media Manipulation and Corporate Lies. Lakesha, she worked in marketing, a field where selective truth-telling was often rewarded. She was good at her job, shaping narratives to make products and campaigns appear more desirable. But at home, the pressure of keeping up appearances was starting to take its toll. Lawrence, too, felt the weight of dishonesty in his own career. He worked in real estate, where he often saw his colleagues stretch the truth to close deals. Both of them were immersed in worlds where manipulation and selective truth-telling were standard practices. It wasn't until Manny came home one day with an art piece that everything began to change. He painted a scene of a corporate executive surrounded by media cameras, holding a mask in one hand and a briefcase in the other. Beneath the executive's feet were the words, "Truth sold here." Manny's work hit a nerve for both Lawrence and Lakesha. It was a reminder of how easily lies could be hidden in plain sight, whether in business media or even in their own home. That evening, they talked about the lies they saw around them, and their careers in the news and politics, and how those lies had shaped the world that they lived in. But as the conversation unfolded, they began to see the most damaging lies were the ones they had told themselves. They started to question the stories they had been telling each other over the years, the excuses, the omissions, the silences. They had been so focused on maintaining an image of a perfect marriage that they had lost sight of the truth. Chapter 4. Political Deception. The next turning point came when Lawrence and Lakesha attended a community meeting about local politics. They listened as the speakers made promises about improving schools and creating more jobs, but something about their words felt hollow. Lawrence leaned over to Lakesha and whispered, "Do you believe any of this?" Lakesha shook her head. "They're telling us what we want to hear, but I doubt they'll ever deliver." They realized then that deception wasn't just a problem in their relationship. It was everywhere. Politicians, corporations, and even the media played with the truth, bending it to fit their agendas. The more Lawrence and Lakesha talked about it, the more they saw how they had been conditioned to accept lies as a normal part of life. That night, as they lay in bed, Lakesha turned to Lawrence. "What if we stop pretending?" she asked quietly. "What if we stopped worrying about conflict and just told each other the truth, no matter how hard it was?" Lawrence looked at her, thinking about their boys and the lessons they had learned through their art. Maybe that's exactly what we need. Chapter 5. Detecting Lies and Building Truth Detection Skills. From that day on, Lawrence and Lakesha committed to living a life of honesty. It wasn't easy. There were moments of anger, frustration, and hurt as they uncovered truths that had been buried for years. But with each revelation, they grew closer. They learned to read each other's body language, to listen for inconsistencies in the words, to call each other out whenever they sensed something wasn't right. Their boys noticed the change too. Amari and Manny continued to paint truths they saw in the world, but now they also celebrated the truths they saw in their parents. For the first time in years, their family felt more connected, more authentic. Chapter 6. Living a Life of Truth. As Lawrence and Lakesha worked on building their marriage around honesty, they realized how powerful truth could be. Their boys' success and art had come from their ability to see the world clearly, to strip away the lies and paint the truth. And now, Lawrence and Lakesha were doing the same thing in their relationship. They had discovered that truth wasn't just about avoiding lies. It was about embracing vulnerability, trusting each other, and being willing to face the discomfort that came with honesty. In the end, they found that living a life of truth didn't just strengthen their marriage. It gave them the freedom to be themselves, to grow, and to love without fear. And in that truth, they discovered a deeper, more enduring connection than they had ever imagined. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe.